Hey folks, welcome to episode 126 of the podcast. I'd hoped to do an extra episode for this fall season, but I am finding that the obligations of parenting that have greatly increased in the last while for me, along with the demands and struggles of keeping a retail store open during the ongoing COVID struggles, are taking more of my time and attention, and it's just got to come from somewhere, and the podcast is one of the things that can come off of my schedule. I've really enjoyed all of these conversations, and I'm feeling called towards doing something new, something that will maybe be a little more artsy and magically orientated. But I'm going to let that gestate and really focus on the practical side of things for the time being. I hope that you have enjoyed these episodes. It's kind of hard to believe it's been 10 years, almost 11 years really now. And it's kind of nice to wrap up with one of the first people who was on the podcast when I started out so long ago. Today's episode with Lon Milo DuQuette. So stay tuned for what's next. Thank you to everybody who's been part of it. And it is a real pleasure. I will, of course, leave these episodes up. And I hope that people will continue to share them, enjoy them, and get something from them. And stay tuned for what's next. Welcome to another episode of the Hermit Lamp podcast. I am here with Lon Milo DuQuette. I looked back as Lon was one of my first series of guests. The podcast started in 2011, and I started the podcast with the question, why do some people change and why do other people not change? And I thought, why not go ask a bunch of people who had been out trying to help people change themselves, that question, and see where it went. And, so it's been quite a while since I caught up with Lon here. And I really thought that, number one, they continue to be active and do all sorts of great stuff on the internet and so on. And I thought, let's just catch up and see. But maybe for some people, this is their introduction to you, Lon. Who are you? What are you up to? What are you about?
The older I get, the less I know the answer to that, or can even guess. I'm just an aging hippie, but I'm a writer and a songwriter and a book writer and things like that. And I guess you could call me an occultist or a magician. And that's just about it. I'm 73 years old and still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Uh-huh.
And at the moment, I write and lecture and talk in the world about ceremonial magic and tarot and Kabbalah and things like that. And in the private world, I try to apply at least some of that knowledge and information toward my own spiritual growth, if you want to call it that, or toward my own process of awakening. And like I say, the older I get, the less I know.
I think that I know for myself, when I first started out, in ceremonial magic and stuff, I discovered Crowley, when I was about 12 years old, and I'm like, yeah, this is the stuff, right? And that idea that we are going to discover our true will, know what it is, and just that's it, then we execute it. It doesn't quite sound like that's the case, right? And it's certainly not been my experience of it, Yeah. So I'm curious to hear what you think about that.
Well, it might not be as hard or as complex as we would have ourselves believe.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it this way. An artist who's really an artist, doesn't really spend too much time thinking about why they're painting or why they're dancing or why they're writing music or sculpture. An artist doesn't spend much time questioning himself or herself why they do what they do. They just got to do it, and they do it. That's more or less what this discovering your will and doing it is about. If you're taking the time constantly to think about every move you make is part of your will, your true will, then you might already be overthinking it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if that's any help at all, there's I kind of compare it to the you and the consciousness of your center of consciousness that you have when you're in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you're in a dream, everything seems perfectly natural, even if it's bizarre and fantastic. It seems perfectly natural that these things are happening in the dream, and you really can't project what non-dream consciousness is about. Okay. You can't theorize in a dream what it's like to not be in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
You don't spend time on it. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're just in the continuum of whatever the situation is or the circumstances in that dream. But it's as simple as waking up in the morning into a brand new, different kind of reality or center of consciousness. And then you don't question that either. Okay. So spending too much time speculating on, as soon as I get my holy guardian angel, or as soon as I open up my heart chakra, or as soon as I'll be able to do this, and you'll be a different person. That waking up makes you a different person, and that different person still has a whole new set of issues and problems and challenges. Is that making any sense to
Absolutely,
you?
Absolutely. It reminds me a little bit of, I think it's E.I. Lilly who said, about belief, right? That, we start out with, I'm going to misquote them because I don't remember the exact quote, but the idea that we start out with this belief, and those beliefs are meant to be explored, tested, and experienced and changed into our new beliefs, which are then meant to be explored and tested and so on. And that, and that as we move forward in our journey of awakening or embodying or whatever we want to think of that thing as, it each shift changes our understanding and perception of the landscape, and yet we still brush our teeth and we still have various concerns and so on. And it's not a destination at which we arrive. It's a process which we continue to live and unfold.
Right. You're always a you. When you're a new you, you don't feel like a new you. You continue to feel like you. Mm-hmm. And So, it's only when we ask ourselves, gee, would I trade places with the me that I was 5 years ago? You go, hell no, I was a freaking idiot 5 years ago. And now I think, I'm a freaking idiot yesterday. So I wouldn't trade places with that either. So we're so close to ourselves as being a self observed center of consciousness that we really don't sense these things. And, you read about the mystical experiences of famous people that get their experiences published and stuff. And you sort of get an idea of what they went through, but you're really not getting an idea how it's going to ever apply to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, right? Because what did this person or that person do at this point? And especially, the more historical we start to slide backwards, right? It's like, how do we even think of what life was exactly like for, Crowley or other people at that point in history? It's so, devoid of any context for us really now, right? Unless we're deeply, deeply enmeshed in being a historian and other things as well. And even then it's not lived experience, right?
And everyone is unique, profoundly unique. And so we've all fallen asleep in our own particular way. So that means we all have to wake up in our own particular ways.
Mm-hmm. How have you been finding that I mean, obviously the pandemic, we're here, November of 2021 as we're recording. Pandemic's been trucking along for a good while now and so on. Have you noticed with yourself or with the other people that you spend time with that this has shifted the way that process works for people, or has changed those things?
We're all crazier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's as simple as I can say. We're all crazier than we were before the pandemic. In a sense, it's driven us all into a state of monasticism. Even if you're a person that tends to ignore the reality of the situation, nevertheless, you're still affected by the reality of the situation. And this idea that we have this perpetual background meditation of isolation. And from a monastic point of view, that can be a very valuable tool for personal spiritual development. But it has created sort of a version of a zombie apocalypse in the outside world that we're in. And that has changed all of our reality, and not in a good way, I think. So for us to stay sane and evolving during this time is going to be a challenge. It won't be impossible. It'll be a challenge. And as far as the totality of human consciousness is concerned, this is one of those periods of a baptism of fire, where it is the prelude to probably a dramatic shift of consciousness. And I believe some of us will thrive and be nourished by that shift of consciousness, and but probably most of us will be undone by it.
Mm.
And that might be, part of the characteristic of what Crowley and others saw as a shift of ages,
Mm-hmm.
or of aeons. And from Crowley's point of view, each of those major shifts of consciousness is preceded by what in the short run looks like catastrophic events that sort of are necessary to traumatize the overriding consciousness of the human race, human consciousness, if you want to look at it that way. So evolution, even physical evolution, biological evolution, is a process of, first of all, resistance. An organism meets a blockage or a resistance or an obstacle to, say, getting nourishment of some kind. And if it doesn't figure out a way to change itself, at least enough to overcome that obstacle, it'll die. And those organisms that figure out a way or strengthen certain aspects of their being in order to overcome it, like every little step of evolution,
Mm-hmm.
They will be the organism that survives. So it takes an obstacle, it takes resistance to create the necessity to overcome the resistance.
Mm.
And the act of overcoming the existence mutates the organism into an organism that can, that resistance is no longer. So it's obstacle, overcoming the obstacle, mutation to overcome the obstacle, and moving on. Same thing with human consciousness. And brother, we've got an obstacle.
Yeah.
Right now, and we either got to mutate or we've got to just say goodbye to the organism, both physical and spiritual, or we're going to have to say goodbye to this particular vehicle that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a colossal challenge on so many levels, right? And the you started off by saying how we've been sort of forced into being monastic, right? And I was like, I hadn't really thought about it in that way. I mean, I thought about the isolation of it, certainly, right? But the fact that I've done isolate, like, monastic things before. I've spent 10 days in the woods by myself. We've Vipassana, like, there are things, but they've always been chosen, right? And I think that unchosen element of this change is such a big part of it too, right? And that's creates so much friction, because when you, even though one never really understands what you're getting into when you make a choice to go on retreat or do other kinds of things, there's still a choice there, right? We know it, versus it being visited upon us as life has been recently. And of course, you compound that with all the other tangents of social change that's coming to the surface that needs to happen, global change, environmental change, and so on, right? And it very much is this sort of trial time for us all, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's something we all have in common, and it's just a shame that so many of us can't wake up to the fact that we're all in the same boat.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and there's the hippie, right?
Yeah.
Come on, let's all just come together, folks. We can do it. We can do it if we all come together. And
It's still true.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Has these times, or brought about change in your own practice? Like magically speaking, or meditation, or other things. Like, have you gone to tools around this stuff?
Not on purpose.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I've got. I am so lazy. Okay, I truly am lazy. I'm so lazy that I've had to make my laziness my most redeeming quality. And so I've made no particular decision other than, I'm going to have to do a lot of stuff online. Even my international lectures, okay, for the last 10 years, I've traveled extensively in Europe, and last 5 years or 6 years in China. And I'm sort of bringing the Western Hermetic arts to a broader audience, and and I've been lucky. And I believe me, I didn't set out to do it. All of this just sort of dropped in my lap, and so I rolled with the flow because I'm too lazy to resist. And all of that I've had to translate to online workshops and seminars and such. And I'm just absolutely lucky enough to have friends and colleagues that can set up the technical part of that for me, because I could barely log on to our little thing here, our Zoom here thing today. I'm technically challenged, but that has forced me to think in a different way. First of all, to think that the ear that is hearing my words, English isn't their first language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's caused me to simplify how I write, how I communicate things, so I can deliver the clearest way to say something, sort of free from American idioms, and I have to deliver things without raising my eyebrow. Okay, there's so much that you and I communicate that is not just the words I'm saying, because I'm not the most eloquent orator in the world. I sort of stutter and say a lot, and things like that. But you can say things, you can communicate great truths in stupid, awkward words by raising an eyebrow or tweaking. You know what I mean? And that I had to completely shift gears in order to be able to deliver that to a non-English speaking audience, breaking up every sentence of a phrase where I know the translator is going to have to break in and translate and keep. It has been a real challenge, but I could actually feel my brain cells rearranging themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in order to do that, and then I realized that what started off by me customizing my my message to accommodate the ear that's hearing it out there, it has changed my own ear.
Mm.
Okay, and my own inner way, and I'm starting to think differently myself, and for me that's kind of a good thing, because I'm such an undisciplined person otherwise, that I'm free to and quite content to just blissfully go through my day, not properly examining even my own thoughts.
Right.
If that makes any sense to you.
Sure.
Yeah. And so it's been a growth experience and a trauma.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's your obstacle adaptation, right?
Yeah.
You hit that obstacle and you had to adapt to it, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, I got to remember that everybody is going through their own dramatic challenges themselves, and just try the best I can to keep up a personal relationship with everybody that I come in contact with, from the baristas down at the coffee shop to the my own magical colleagues and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that the pandemic has changed my pattern of, well, I used to get up every morning and do a pentagram ritual, and not forget that, that wasn't my routine for the last 15, 20 years anyway.
Sure.
But to say that my magic hasn't been altered and amended would be a misstatement, because it certainly has. And but we'll just see if all of us can survive the next few years of the global upheavals. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Do you spend a lot of time thinking about that?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like I don't know. It's a strange. When I was a little kid, I had so many bizarre thoughts when I was a little kid, because I was forced to stay in the crib. I was immobilized because of a bone disease when I was young, so I could just lay in my crib and just think about stuff, and I was quite happy to do that. But I toyed with the idea of, why am I here at this particular juncture in my reality? And then, of course, I went to school in the 1950s, and in the United States, of course, your teachers all told you how lucky you were to live in the United States, and the ministers said how blessed we are all to live in the United States, because there's so much want and unhappiness in other parts of the country. And I always kept thinking, why am I lucky enough to live in a father knows best kind of privileged white middle class Why, when all of these other people in other parts of the world are just, so not so fortunate. And it's always been at the back of my mind when I ask that question to myself that, no, there's a really good reason for this, because this is a special time. And you, for some reason, you've always wanted to live through such a special time. Okay. As if I've lived through so many other times that weren't special and were pretty damn dull.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And grim and no, this is exciting.
Hey folks, I just want to jump in here for a second and remind people that the Hermit Lamp is also a store. So I have an online store and an in-person store in Toronto that sells over 400 tarot decks, 300 kinds of crystals, and incense holders, candles, oils, and all the magical goodies you might want for whatever spiritual practice you are up to. I think we have great prices on stuff. Everything is sourced to the best of my ability to be authentic. And we offer pickup or in-store shopping when it's not COVID in Toronto. And we offer delivery just about anywhere in the world. So do me a favor. Next time you're thinking about stuff, drop by thehermitslamp.com, check it out, see if we've got something you need there, because I always appreciate that support.
When I was in grade school, it's really exciting because the Russians may bomb us at any minute with big nuclear. Okay, the world might end any minute. This is so exciting, And then I'd get excited about the fact that I was waking up to what was going on. Like in high school, I was lucky enough to be able to kind of see through the madness of what was the Vietnam War. I said, that's bullshit. Wow, what's this? I'm so lucky to be here and be able to see that that's totally bullshit. And that's kind of how I feel like right now too. Here we are. There might not be a future for mammals on Earth. Okay, I may be at the Götterdämmerung of life as a mammal on the planet, and part of me is to say, yes, how exciting. Where does consciousness go when it can't live in a mammal? And so the whole thing is, I think, too big for anybody to wrap their meat brains around. And the best we can do is to determine and be comfortably productive in what we are here to do under these circumstances. And when we start to focus in on what that is, then we're getting a glimpse of what our true will is.
Mm-hmm.
then we're getting a glimpse of the job that our particular facet of consciousness is actually here to function, to fulfill its potentiality to do. And if I am so dense and so stupid that I have to learn that lesson under these circumstances, then I probably damn well deserve it. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I deserve it. Oh, gee, couldn't I learn this in a kinder, gentler
In a peaceful life, in a peaceful time, just sitting in a monastery and looking at a flower, you know?
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at some point along the way, I was having this kind of conversation with somebody about finding their will, right? And I threw out the statement, only by walking the road can you discover which star is yours.
yeah.
You know? And for me, I think that idea of like, you know, we don't arrive at it. It doesn't download to us, you know, complete and whole, and we just enact it. It's this showing up and this engaging and this looking at it and being aware of the conditions and working within the scope of what you have, right? And where you're at and all of those kinds of things. And in that we can discover who we really are, right? And then we can shed that and discover who we really are again, and so on, you know? And yeah, to me, there's like that constant, you know, constant process of staying on the road, you know? So. Mm-hmm.
So with each new project that I involve myself in, I truly find out more and more. And I don't really know, and I'm sure everyone is not like this, but I don't really know what I know. I don't really believe what I believe until I am forced to try to explain it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I'm too lazy and too indolent.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'm
it's
too indolent to explain it to myself. I'm forced to find out what I think by explaining it to somebody else. So I reveal myself to myself by the questions that are asked me.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I feel like as a person who works as a tarot reader and does a lot of card reading for people, you know, not all the questions, but often people will come with question. I'll be like, that's a really good question. Now I need to, like, you know, I mean, see what the cards say, see what I say, see what my spirit says, you know, and so on. And, you know, that hitting the moment where a question emerges that stretches the ability to articulate it, but which really, for me at least, and I think this is kind of what you're getting at, means to actually know it, to consciously be aware of it, right? Before that, it's just it's a potential that you could trigger a synapse somewhere and pull that out, right? But yeah.
Well, I think my whole I never intended to be a writer because I knew writing was hard and I'm lazy. I don't want to do hard stuff. But long about 1978 or 9, because I was chartered at a lodge of OTO in Southern California. And I thought my perceived duties as a lodge master was to have a weekly class. Okay. And, you know, there'd be 3 people show up, 4 people show up. As the lodge got bigger, 5, 6, 7 and stuff. But I had to stay 1 week ahead of the class. Okay, that's because I wasn't an adept at all. Okay, I'm still a student too. But it was 40 some years of that class, weekly class, and for 2 years it was 2 nights a week. I was forced to figure out everything that I know and everything I understood by explaining it to others through in response to their questions. Mm-hmm. So I got a chapter in my book, Homemade Magic, I think it's called it. If you want to learn magic, teach magic. Okay. Mm. And that's just what I did. When it came time to, when my publisher, Weiser, wanted me to do a book on Kabbalah or Hermetic Kabbalah, I certainly didn't feel up to that. That's mm-hmm. going to be hard. I don't want to do anything hard, mm-hmm. you know? And so I was struck by classic Jewish literature, mystical literature, that used a fictional rabbi to tell the story and to quote and stuff. And after many years of teaching Kabbalah at my Monday night class, the classes just kept getting goofier and goofier and goofier. And I was explaining things simpler and simpler and simpler through like corny jokes and setups and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. In other words, I was shooting a humorous bullet deep into the brain of the listener, and when their brain exploded, they go, "Oh God, I get that. It's it's not more complex than I thought. It's simpler than I thought." So I decided to split myself in two and invent this fictional rabbi. Mm-hmm. After all, it's part of
there's a precedent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I invented this Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford to say all the outrageous things that Lon DuQuette as a writer would be embarrassed saying, mm-hmm. or at least reticent.
Sure.
Okay. And it worked. Okay. Mm-hmm. This rabbi I invented was wiser than I could ever be. Okay. And I actually felt like I was apart from the wisdom coming out of this rabbi, and just acting as Lon DuQuette, just acting as his commentator or mm-hmm.
Trusted scribe or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about embodying that approach in any of your other kind of work? Summon up John Dee and write a book, write another chapter in your book on Enochian work or something along those lines?
Well, I did a Son of Chicken Kabbalah, where actually the rabbi was an initiatory officer of a 3-degree Kabbalah order. So I did that. But I haven't yet presumed to jump into John Dee or anybody else. But it's something to think about. Lately I'm anxious to jump out of myself and go someplace else for a while.
Yeah.
But anyway, I may have to incarnate to do that. But I don't know if I can reincarnate as a mammal.
Well, it's the question, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know. You could pull that beard off on a fish, brand new bearded fish species, right?
Yeah.
with the eyebrows, so you can raise the eyebrow when you're trying to communicate something.
It'll probably be an insect if it's going to be on this planet.
Yeah. So what else you got coming down the line then that you're working on that you could share about?
I've got two new, pretty heroic Chinese uh, uh, lecture series coming up in December through March that I've got to gear up to and create. The Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, my tarot deck, recently got redone in with another publisher. Has already gone through 2 complete printings, and I'm sort of tweaking that for the third edition of that coming up. My book, Homemade Magic, which was originally published by Llewellyn, is now seeing a second revised edition. That's coming out very soon.
See, you don't sound like a lazy person when you talk about it this way.
No, but just ask my wife. I'm a lazy slob. And what else do I've got? I'm constantly writing introductions to other people's works, and I really enjoy doing that because obviously I wasn't formed in a vacuum, and I was influenced by brilliant works of others, and I've been lucky enough to when those classic works get reprinted, to be asked to introduce and write those books. And I guess my latest book is called "Allow Me to Introduce" from Weiser, and that was a collection of 35 years of my introductions to other people's works, which are actually, in my opinion, my best work, because it's the best stuff I've ever written that nobody ever reads. So I put them right in the all together in one book, and that's been doing okay. And what else is the big Llewellyn book of ceremonial magic that David Shoemaker and I edited, and I curated, has won all sorts of awards and stuff like that. So that's it's a big book of ceremonial magic. As far as my musical career is going, obviously I haven't had a concert since the pandemic. I haven't traveled anywhere to set that up. My favorite club in New York City, after 60, 70 years, finally closed down. Cafe Vivaldi broke my heart. But up here in Sacramento, there's a little bookstore called the East Village Bookshop. And I'm going to do a talk on tarot.
Nice.
In December there. And when they started Googling around, they discovered that I was a songwriter too. And so I'm going to have to play a couple songs there. But that's been my only public appearances.
Tarot and music, 2 things that go great together.
Yeah, tarot, music, and magic. So that's happening. Otherwise, we're having a great deal of trouble with our new home here in Sacramento. It's not making us happy.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it might have been that way most any place we would have moved after being used to the same place for 22 years, But there's a lot of stresses where that's concerned. But we're trying to make the best of it.
Well, I hope they smooth out and you find your way through them swiftly.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, we're kind of at the end of our time here, even though I could continue to chat with you indefinitely. But where you're on Facebook, are there other places that people should come and check you out as well? I'll put the links in the show notes, but
Okay. My Facebook page is the closest thing I've got to a blog.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And ever since the pandemic, so we're pushing almost 2 years now. Every morning at 10 o'clock, I do a live reading or a live babble,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I appear live every day on Facebook at 10 o'clock. And they stay on Facebook forever. And somebody actually puts them on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So I've read section by section every book I've ever written.
Lovely.
On Facebook. And so people might get a kick out of tuning in on that. And and I put stuff up 4 or 5 times a day on Facebook because it's my way of trying to connect with an audience. Mm-hmm. And but otherwise, all my books are on Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and
sure.
just Google Lon Milo DuQuette.
Yep. I carry all the ones that are in print at my shop here in Toronto, pretty much. So.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, a few of my books have gone into several editions, and if our people listening here happen to go to Amazon and see a book for sale for $700, mm-hmm. Google around a little more. The new editions, sell for $12.
Sure, yeah. They're pretty much everything's in print, so you don't need to drop, your month's rent to get the Magic of Thelema. You can get the newer and retitled. What's it called? The Magic of Aleister Crowley's right.
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
Yeah. So mm-hmm. So yeah, unless you're a book collector, okay.
Yes. But
even so, I don't get any of that $700.
Right. Yeah.
I don't get any of that. So don't think you're doing me a favor.
And that is good advice for anybody. As somebody who resells secondhand books and rare books sometimes and stuff like that. Amazon high-end Amazon prices are always ridiculous.
Yeah.
And even then, like even books that are sort of like maybe sold for $20 and are now like $40-$50, even then you can usually find them for about 40 to 50% of that if you dig around a little bit. So yeah.
But ultimately, if you've got a local bookstore, even if the local bookstore doesn't specialize in occult stuff, if you got a local bookstore and you want to buy even one of my books or a magic book, whatever, go to your local bookstore and order it from them.
Mm-hmm.
You might pay a couple bucks more.
Or you might have to wait a week or two for it.
And you might have to wait a week or two. But it's so much more important. You're making such a bigger contribution to literature and to art form and to intelligence, period, to try to get it from your local bookstore. So
absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for making the time today, Lon. It's been lovely to catch up. Hopefully it won't be 10 years before we get to talk again.
Okay, we'll see you in 10 years.
See you in 2020, 2031.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Those numbers get hard to think about sometimes,
Maybe we better wait just 5 years.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. That is episode 126 in the bank. I want to, again, thank everybody for listening in and enjoying stuff on this journey. It's kind of astounding. It's like 250,000 downloads or something like that. It's just kind of bonkers. So, yeah, big heartfelt thanks. please follow me on Instagram, or jump on my newsletter. There's new stuff coming at some point. And as always, if you would like help or support on your spiritual journey, I am available through the website. And if you're looking for spiritual goods, including books and all sorts of other things like tarot and crystals, I've got it all at my store, and we are shipping pretty much anywhere on the planet. All right. Much love. We'll catch you on whatever's next.